Crypto as an asset class is highly volatile. It's for people with a high tolerance for risk and who understand crypto may be more susceptible to market manipulation, or protected by the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. Also, investors in crypto do not applicable to registered securities like stocks or bonds. Fidelity Crypto is offered by Fidelity Digital Assets, provided by Fidelity Brokerage Services, which does not offer crypto as a direct service for such assets. Throughout this live stream, you may hear terms like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many more. Keep in mind, the digital following interactive conversations like this one may use words like crypto or digital assets as or for the ecosystem as a whole. Remember, all coins and tokens have very different attributes and use cases, and the ones we talk about here are only part of a wide variety of digital assets in existence. One of the most common questions we get is a version of, how can I keep my crypto secure? It's a simple enough sounding question, right? But there's a lot of possible answers. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Covering Crypto live stream. I'm Jim Armstrong with Fidelity. Today, we're going to take your questions about crypto custody and storage, and ideally, we'll leave you feeling a little bit more confident when it comes to security and digital assets. We're going to be talking both in general terms, but also we'll talk specifically about custody and storage as it pertains to Fidelity Crypto, which is offered by Fidelity Digital Assets. Now, the answers to your question are going to come from a pair of excellent people working on the Fidelity Digital Assets team. We've got Chris Kuiper, who's Director of Research, and Brian Allen, Product Area Lead for Wallet and Blockchain. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Sydney Wilson is also with us today. She is also on the Fidelity Digital Assets team, and she's going to help us take your live questions and get as many of them answered as we possibly can. Hey, Sid.
Hey, Jim. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into some fantastic viewer questions that you submitted during registration. But that's not all. You can join in today, too. If you're watching this live on Fidelity's website, look to the right of the video player, and there you can submit your own question. Upvote those that catch your attention, and I'll be watching. Remember, though, we do not provide price predictions for cryptocurrency. We get hundreds, sometimes even thousands of questions on live stream, so we can't get to them all today. However, I'll be looking for common themes and get to as many as I can. For those we don't get to, you can certainly visit fidelity.com/learncrypto. You should be able to find your answer there.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Sydney. We'll check in with you in just a couple minutes. But to get started now, we, like you said, are going to take a couple of registration questions. We have this one from Glenn. That's a good place to start off. Glenn asks, what are the different types of wallets and which ones are secured? So I do want to back up just a bit to make sure everybody's on the same page here. The word wallet, when we're talking about crypto, refers to a place where the keys to your digital assets can be stored. Kind of like a real life wallet where you'd put your physical dollars, but obviously this one's digital. As a crypto owner, you're going to have a public key, which you can and should share publicly. Your public key is how you will send and receive cryptocurrencies. And you can think of your public key kind of like your email address. If you want to send and receive email, other people have to have and use your address. With crypto, you're also going to have a private key, which you should absolutely never, ever share. Think of your private key kind of like your email password, something you would never want to make public. Otherwise, you'd risk other people having access to your emails, being able to read them or send them in your name. So you want to keep your private key as private as you possibly can. So Chris, with that background, can you just give us some crypto context to that question as well?
Sure. It's a big question here to two different parts, two different things to differentiate when you're talking about crypto wallets. So the first part is you need to determine who is holding and protecting that private key and keeping those private keys secure. Is it you, the customer, the person who owns it, or are you trusting another third party? And the word we use for that in crypto is custody, as in who has custody of your crypto. And then the other point of differentiation is whether you've chosen custody and whether your chosen custody and storage option is connected to the internet. So we have this chart here that can help keep things straight. And I'll start out by covering that left-hand side. So there's kind of two axes here. These are the two options you face if you choose to have your cryptocurrencies held in custody by a third party. So both options on the left there are what we call custody solutions. So let's say you're buying some tokens or coins via an online crypto exchange. You complete your purchase, and then your new digital assets may initially go into a custodial hot storage account. It's likely managed by the platform you just bought these coins from. Now, a storage option is hot if it's connected to the internet. So hot in this case means it's online. You'll probably access your crypto using the same password that you used to sign into that platform or exchange in the first place. Now, alternatively, you might also buy and hold your crypto with a third party that keeps your assets in cold storage. Now, as you might have guessed, cold in this context means it's not online. It's not connected to the internet in any way. And by the way, this is how Fidelity Crypto holds the overwhelming majority of its digital assets in cold storage. There is a very small percentage that's kept in hot storage, and it's there so we can quickly facilitate any trades the customer wants to make or withdrawals. But almost all of the digital assets we custody are in cold storage here. And we'll talk a lot more about Fidelity Crypto in a moment. But first, I'll turn it over to Brian, and he'll go over the right-hand side of this chart.
Yep, thanks, Chris. So the other option here, if you want to be responsible for your own security and storage of your digital assets, you choose self-custody. So in this case, after you bought your digital assets, you'll choose to move that crypto to your own wallet. Here, again, you could choose a hot wallet, which might be an app on your phone, a piece of software, a website, or some combination of those options. And you'll need to set up your own security, at least a strong password and hopefully more. The good news is it's relatively easy to set up and maintain that hot wallet, but the flip side would be that since it's online, it's almost inherently vulnerable to potential hackers. The other option would be a cold wallet. So a cold wallet in this context could be a USB, something you plug in, a small thumb drive, or potentially something the size of a credit card. Sometimes you'll also hear cold wallets called hard wallets or hardware wallets because it's something tangible. It's something you physically hold and protect. Importantly there, it is not connected to the internet, so you don't have to worry about that hacking risk. But on the other side, you then have the additional risk of losing that physical device. If you lose that physical device, you've almost certainly lost total access to your digital assets. So you have to protect both your device and your access to it, which we'll talk a little more about in a second. And one final point, when you use a cold wallet or a hardware wallet, your crypto isn't actually in or on that wallet. The wallet is where you store and protect the private keys, where the assets themselves remain on the public blockchain, where they always will be.
So self-custody has the potential to keep any third parties sort of out of the mix, out of your business. But as you both have alluded to, it does come with some pretty big responsibilities. So Chris, it'd be great if you could just spend a moment or two talking about the pros and cons there of being responsible for custody yourself.
Sure. The pro or benefit of doing your own custody is that it gives you absolute and full control over your coins. So you can use them however you want. You can move them. You can do whatever you want with them, pay for goods and services, for example. And when you do this, generally what you're doing is setting up this wallet, and you're given a seed phrase. And the seed phrase is actually your private key. It's usually a list of 12, maybe 24 random words that you have to keep in order to access your crypto. Now, people have different strategies for securing their seed phrases. You could just write them down, put them somewhere safe or in an actual safe. But I've also seen and heard a lot of people get these words engraved on metal. So therefore, you're taking away the risk of it getting destroyed by fire or water or flooding or pets or something like that. There's a lot of creativity here that we could spend all day on. Now, in the future, if you need to restore your keys or restore a wallet, your wallet may ask for those words, and they're going to ask for it in a specific order. So it's kind of like a password, like you said. Now, if you can't provide that, you're locked out. If you lose your seed phrase, just like if you use that external device that's storing that seed phrase, that's it. it's gone. There's no recourse at all. Your access to your crypto is gone. And again, because you're doing this self-custody, there's no customer support that you can call. You can't do the forgot my password button on anything. So I'm kind of reminded of that phrase, with great responsibility or with great power comes great responsibility. So you have all the power in the world here, but it is also all the responsibility is fully on you. So there's a bit of a double-edged sword there. So especially for people new to crypto, that's a pretty intimidating prospect.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, even though it's intimidating, I guarantee you there's plenty of people watching right now who feel like self-custody is the only way to go. That you've often heard a phrase, not your keys, not your coins, meaning if you're not the one and only person who can access your digital assets, there's plenty of people who feel like, therefore, your digital assets might be at risk. You've lost control of them. But like you said, Chris, the flip side is that if you've got a trusted third party, then you don't have to worry about losing your seed phrase, the dog eating the piece of paper, getting them tattooed on your body, or all the other things that people do to protect that information. So Brian, talk a little bit, if you could, about using a third party to store your crypto, maybe to avoid some of those other needs or complications.
Yep, and for all those reasons, use of a custodian may be a better option for some or many people. So a custodian in this context is a financial institution who you contract with to manage the security of your digital assets on your behalf. So through this relationship, you trust the custodian to secure your assets and abstract you away from the complexities of self-custody. Custodians, therefore, are responsible for managing those private keys, and they'll generally provide you with a simple online or application or app interface with traditional login credentials to both view your balances and then take actions like buying, selling, or transferring your digital assets. Fidelity Crypto, offered by Fidelity Digital Assets, is one of these custodial offerings and is the example that we can talk about today with the most confidence. So there are some advantages that we started to talk about using a custodian and storing your crypto with this trusted third party. So first, you may have a lower chance of losing access to your crypto. So if you lose your login, or if your dog eats your seed in this case, you may be, or dog eats your password, you may be able to work with a dedicated customer support team to recover your credentials and therefore get access to your account and assets back, which won't be the case with self-custody, where there's no one to call for help. Another one would be, custodians like Fidelity Digital Assets have developed incredibly sophisticated security measures to secure client assets. So these include cybersecurity teams with hundreds of people providing around-the-clock supervision and cyber monitoring, dedicated operations teams, and then advanced physical security controls like vaults within a vault structures. For an individual investor, even though the concepts are the same, it would be very difficult to recreate this level of defense and scale and security that are made available by, dedicated custodians. Another one would be keeping your investment secure can be simpler with a custodian with years of experience. So as we talked about, providing your own custody can be complicated and multi-step with more chances for error if you're not used to having done that in the past. In contrast, using custodian may mean you only need to keep track of, one username, one password, one set of multi-factor login credentials. And then with that single platform, you can do all of your digital assets needs, custody, trading, and fully managing your digital assets portfolio. So in Fidelity's case, with Fidelity Crypto, it's actually a little bit beyond that, where customers can access their crypto account with their same login credentials they use to access their brokerage, retirement, or any other account they use through Fidelity. If there's a problem with your access, usually our customers can solve that online by themselves through app or by phone call if needed. So all things considered, this route may be the most secure and simple strategy for those who don't have the time, desire, or experience with the nuances of crypto security.
Excellent. Thank you for that walkthrough. Thank you both for that. I want to turn to Sydney now. I'm going to guess what normally happens is happening now, which is to say a lot of people, when they hear this conversation about custody and storage, it leads them to think about the ability to transfer cryptocurrencies into and out of their Fidelity crypto account. So I know we got some registration you can take as well, Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a popular theme here today. So Russell and Karen are asking questions live here about transferring, like if I brought crypto here at Fidelity, do I have the ability to move it to self-storage? We've got Jeremy and Steve with our pre-registration questions asking if there's any sort of ability to withdraw Bitcoin into hard wallets. So yeah, you're 100% right, Jim. It's definitely a popular question here today.
Cool. So Brian, can you take those? Yeah, we got Jeremy's withdrawing into a hard wallet. Steve's asking about transferring from a cold wallet into a crypto account at Fidelity.
Yep, great questions. And we definitely hear you all on the need for this feature. I don't have a specific timeline that I can share today, but I can absolutely confirm that transfers into and out of Fidelity Crypto are very much on our roadmap. If you look at how Fidelity Crypto has evolved as a product, it's still relatively new to the market, and we focused on, launching a simple, streamlined product right off the bat. But as the product evolves, we hear customer needs evolving, and we certainly understand where those needs are coming from. So all I'd say for now is very much a high priority. We'll keep you updated. It is on our roadmap to get done soon.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for that. While I have you, Brian, I want to hit you with these other couple questions that came in during registration. I think are a nice follow-up to that discussion. Scott asked us to please outline the cybersecurity plan for custody of digital assets, current and future. And then Sylvia, a slightly more pointed question, but a great one. How secure is the Fidelity Crypto account from professional hackers? So, we suggested that these are the types of questions that a customer or investor really does want to be asking about a third party before they trust them with their crypto. So how would you answer those couple of questions?
Yep, great questions, and exactly the type of questions that investors should be asking as they potentially pick a custodian or how they want to secure their assets. So as we talked about a little earlier, and as we'll get to more later, Fidelity Digital Assets over the years has developed a robust set of overlapping security measures that protect our clients, both the data of our clients as well as the actual crypto assets of our clients. So this is cybersecurity controls, physical controls, logical and operational security controls, all of those controls reinforcing each other to make it a more secure platform, but also compensating should one of those controls ever have any issue. And as Chris alluded to earlier, the vast majority of assets held by Fidelity Digital Assets are held in fully offline cold storage. So it may be helpful here to take a step back and start with, how we operate the Fidelity Digital Assets custody offering. And it's in a manner that's probably familiar with traditional financial accounts. Assets are stored together in back-end accounts and systems, and then recorded individually on a client-by-client basis in internal accounting systems. What that means is all client assets are stored in a core set of Fidelity Digital Assets wallets with our highest level of security without setting up individual wallets for each and every single client. Then in our accounting systems, that's where every asset is held on every client is recorded in every distinct account. And then, of course, the aggregate amount of all of those assets in our accounting system should exactly match the holdings that actually exist in our wallets on the blockchain. You layer that into, of course, robust processes, controls, and reconciliations that make sure that at any given moment, the balances on the blockchain match what's on their books and records. This model is sometimes referred to as omnibus. We at Fidelity Digital Assets feel that this is the optimal model that ensures the security of our client assets, a scalable custody offering that can support the many, many clients that we offer services to, as well as on-chain privacy and liquidity for transactions.
And building on that really thorough explanation, thank you for that, comes this question from Sammy that I'd love you both to weigh in on. Chris, maybe you could take it first. Sammy wants to know what the incentives are to custody with Fidelity Digital Assets.
Yeah, lots to talk about here. A lot of incentives to go with Fidelity Digital Assets. I'll start by saying a big one, which is that Fidelity Digital Assets does not rehypothecate our client assets. So for those unfamiliar, rehypothecation is an industry term or jargon for when a financial firm uses its customers' assets as collateral for other projects. And again, we do not do this. We've never done that, and we do not leverage the customer deposits here. So when we do hold assets on behalf of our clients, that's just what we do. We hold them and we don't invest them in any way. We store them and then we secure them on our customers' behalf. And then when a customer explicitly asks us to do something with those assets, like trade them, that's the only time in which those assets are moved. Second, I'll say in terms of controlling risk and exposure to all the players, we have an extensive risk management program and policies in place. So When you think about trading activities, we have to go out and trade with a number of counterparties out there in the industry. But before we do that, before we trade with any of these counterparties, we're doing really extensive due diligence. And it's not just a one-time due diligence on them, it's a process. It's actively monitoring our counterparties, looking at exposure on a continuing and intraday basis.
Got it. Okay, Brian, I'd love to give you a minute or two to respond to Sammy's question as well.
Yeah, a few other things in addition would be, the integrated trading capability. So the one login to both see and secure your digital assets, and then also buy or sell your portfolio, and the integrated experience with any other interaction you have with Fidelity. So again, that common login credential to see the different paths. There won't be the client service offering. So hopefully nothing ever goes wrong and you don't need help, but knowing that if something goes bump in the night, you have, tools, communication channels, and people that are willing to help you in whatever's going on. And also educational offerings. So the fact that all of you have made it onto this live stream probably means that you've already found some of our, research, education, and learning materials that are out there. And then finally, just based on the topic of this particular live stream, going a little bit deeper into the actual storage and security offerings of Fidelity digital assets. So again, we adhere to a robust combination of operational, cyber, and physical controls, all operating together to keep, client assets and personal information safe, which kind of the key component there is that offline cold storage for the vast majority of assets. That's not just that it's not currently plugged into the network. These are specialized storage equipment, location facilities with all the good stuff that you'd want from a custodian: 24/7 on-site security, alarms, remote monitoring, trip wires, all that good stuff. And it's kind of fun to also talk about what offline means. Offline doesn't necessarily just mean that it's not currently plugged into your laptop. It really means a much more sophisticated version of offline, of devices that have never been connected to a network, that never will be connected to a network, in locations that don't even have network connections available. So you can probably sense we could talk about this for quite a while, but maybe I'll just close us out with, not allowing for single points of failure is absolutely another of our core security tenets. So I like to use the term multi-everything. So multi-step, multi-person, multi-approvals, multi-site, multi-signature, having more than one of everything that both allows us to, maintain that intense level of security, but also maintain availability and redundancy. If there is something that goes wrong, making sure that our clients can always access their assets.
Thank you for that. We are going to start to pivot to more general safety, security, custody, and storage questions. But before we do that, just to wrap up this section, I think it's equally important. We've talked about all the things that Fidelity Crypto will do. But Chris, what are some of the things you would say Fidelity Crypto won't do? Because I think they are sometimes equally as important.
Yeah, absolutely. The won't is just as important or more. And I think there's really 5 big things that we point to that we don't do. Number one, we don't use a third-party custodian for our crypto services. And that's not true of all crypto custodians or exchanges. Some of them use a third party themselves for this or outsource this. But everything is done in-house at Fidelity. So when you use the Fidelity app, any coins or tokens you may decide to purchase, they're stored by Fidelity Digital Assets using the security practices that Brian just discussed. So everything's done in-house, and we have kind of full visibility of that stack, if you will. Second, we don't allow for single points of failure. Brian mentioned this as well. We pluralize all the people, processes, procedures into as many steps as possible to ensure that the funds at all times, there's no one single thing that could happen that could make everything else go wrong. And it's kind of the famous phrase, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So we try to cover everything there. And then third, we really restrict the amount of assets we keep permanently in hot wallets. So our goal is to keep as many assets in cold storage as possible at all times. But of course, there's a little bit of a trade-off that you have to make where you need a small amount in hot wallets to facilitate that liquidity. So we'll keep some amount ready, and so it's ready to place trades or for customers who ask for them. But the overwhelming majority of our custody assets are protected in cold storage. And again, that's that offline, not connected to anything. And then fourth, Fidelity Digital Assets does not sell our client data. That's really important, especially nowadays. We've seen this happen elsewhere throughout the industry, but that's just not true here. And then lastly, I think it's important just to restate what we said before, which is we don't rehypothecate clients' digital assets. We don't lend them out. We don't encumber them in any way without any kind of customer consent. Meaning the customer would have to the assets remain completely in custody, right? We don't use these customer assets for our own investments.
Great. Thanks for covering the don'ts as well as the do's. We'll head over to Sydney now to see what other live questions or registration questions might be coming in as we again start to shift the conversation to general custody and security. Although we're happy to talk more about Fidelity Crypto if those questions are coming in too. But Sydney, what's popping? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we definitely have some general questions here on just general security in the crypto space. So William is asking, I purchased crypto. How do I keep it really safe? I think that really rolls up to our registration question too from Gerardo, which is how can you keep your crypto account and information secure? And we even have one more from Lori if we've got time after those two.
Yeah, I can take some of those, Jim. The more general, we've talked about how we secure the assets, but I think this question is getting more to the point of how can I, a person, what can I personally do as well on top of these things? And there's really a number of strategies that we've talked about in the show before. So first of all, what we're talking about here, choose your custody provider. Either go with a third party that you trust for all of those benefits and the security that they provide, or you could do self-custody like we've talked about. And then, Brian could probably say more on this as well. But the other thing is we strongly encourage you to research any digital assets before you invest. And we've talked about this a lot too. This is more of my wheelhouse, but crypto is still a very new space. Unfortunately, there's still a ton of scams around. I still hear of a new one every week, it seems like. And you can always find a new coin or token that promises huge return in very little time for very little investment. And of course, these things do exist, but you have to ask who's behind it, what's the project, who's backing it, what are their incentives, what's their history, and then just the age-old, is it too good to be true? Kind of common sense question there. The other thing is we advise new investors, or we may say you should think about sticking to the cryptocurrencies that have really established histories. They've been around the longest. They've survived major events. Look for things like interest from institutional investors that have large research teams. Coins that have institutional investors, not a guarantee, obviously, but they're comparatively less likely to be brought down by a single bad actor just because there's been more people vetting them or they have more interest here. And then third, only buy through established exchanges with reliable histories. You could probably go out there, you could find a startup exchange. They might have very low fees or some really juicy promotional offers if you open an account and start trading with them. But they also might have questionable security protocols. So it's probably a better idea if you're putting your hard-earned money into these things to stick to well-known, reputable exchanges. And then also be wary of any exchanges or other projects or coins that offer really high yields. Again, is it too good to be true? Where is that yield coming from? It's likely not sustainable is what I usually tell people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to hop into with just a handful of other suggestions really based on, I love the way Lori phrased it. Like, what can I do to secure myself? Like I can rely on a trusted third party only so much. There's something that I need to do as well. So again, I've got a handful of things here. First, it's going to sound obvious, but it's a good reminder. Never share your seed phrase with anybody, right? Just like your personal email or banking passwords, you absolutely want to protect your seed phrase and any passwords that you have. This next one, again, it's going to sound common sense, but keep your digital assets private. You would be surprised, if you didn't already experience it, how many people online like to brag about the size of their digital assets account. So like to brag about how much money they made with any given coin or token or on a specific trade. And I know you're thinking like, I would never do that. I would never do that. People do it all the time, unfortunately, so much so that the FBI has actually weighed in and said, please stop doing that, because when you do, essentially what you're doing is you're putting yourself on the radar of potential scammers. So don't do that. Something to do is just be super vigilant about clicking on any suspicious links. Phishing scams are really, really common in crypto. So if you get an email that's supposed to be from your exchange or something like that, look closely at it. Look for any spelling errors. Does the logo look off? Are the colors incorrect? Something like that. Make sure that the domain address is correct as well. Lots of phishing scams out there. Along the same lines, don't ever click on a link in a direct social media message that you get, because a legitimate exchange is almost never, ever going to contact you one-on-one over some sort of social media private message. The only exception to that might be if you're the one who reaches out first to the exchange, to talk to their social care team or get some kind of customer support through social media. Then you might have a conversation with them. But sending fake social media message links is unfortunately a really popular phishing strategy. And then finally, the last thing I'll add is, and this goes for all of your financial accounts, not just your crypto ones, is really consider setting up two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication is where you'll have to enter, usually it's an additional numeric code beyond your basic username or password in order to access your account. So what typically happens if you're unfamiliar, you'll log in with your normal credentials, and then you'll be prompted, you'll get a code either maybe to an email account or to your mobile phone or to an authenticator app on your phone. Perhaps you have one of those. And what that's doing is giving you that extra layer of protection in case your login credentials get hacked or stolen or something. That second factor should help you protect your accounts by having that in place. So that's what I would add, but I'll turn it over to Brian for some other self-custody ideas.
No, that's all great advice. And I'll kind of just final weigh in here with just reiterating that point. It's all about your research. Anytime you're working with a new company, you're doing a new asset, a new technology, anywhere that you're putting your money or your personal information, the more research, the better, until you're comfortable with the types of people and how you're interacting with them. So when it comes to digital assets and potentially picking, a crypto custodian, if you go down the custodian route instead of self-custody, some things that you should really think about are, first off, how would that custodian be storing your crypto? Examples would be, is it primarily stored offline? Is that custodian actually subcontracting to another third party that's holding those crypto? Does this custodian have a track record? How many years of operations have they been in business? Who do you know that's used them? All those questions are very key to actually understanding what's going on behind the scenes to keep your assets safe. Second would be, what is that custodian doing with your assets? We mentioned, rehypothecation or relending your assets. So is your custodian just holding the assets that you deposited with them on your behalf, or are they doing something behind the scenes that you may or may not want them to do, like rehypothecation or lending? And then finally, is your custodian regularly audited? And if so, who is that audit firm? Is it a reputable firm? And is that custodian regulated, and specifically, how are they regulated? Those are the types of things that it's important to have some level of independent supervision of that custodian that you're trusting your assets with.
Lots of questions to ask for sure, but I appreciate that really, really thorough list. All right, Sydney, let's turn it back over to you and see what live questions are coming. Again, we'll take them general custody, security. We can talk about Fidelity Crypto in specific. We'll do our best to take as many as we can.
Terrific. Jim, I actually think this is a really good one for you. So popular topic today, we've got Kevin, Peter, and Shailesh asking, can we go ahead and learn more about the fees associated with Fidelity Crypto?
Sure. So I think a great way to do that, and a more accurate answer than I can rattle off the top of my head, is to go to Fidelity's Learn page, fidelity.com/learncrypto. That's where there are FAQs that discuss that. Although unless, Chris, you can do that off the top of your head, I'm not super familiar with how I don't want to say it wrong, right? But I know that our FAQs on fidelity.com/learncrypto can help.
Yeah, I think that's the best place to go, just to make sure you're getting the latest and most accurate information for sure.
I love that. And this next one, I think, is a great layup here for you, Chris. So we've got a question here coming in of, will I ever be able to make peer-to-peer payments with my Bitcoin held in Fidelity Crypto? I think that one would either be good for you, Chris, or maybe Brian.
Yeah, I think I'll just pass it to Brian if he has more info on this, but I think it gets at what he was talking earlier about the question on transfer of assets. So currently that's not a feature, but on the roadmap. And so if there were ever some kind of wallet feature for not just transferring in and out of accounts, but actual more day-to-day or peer-to-peer payments, that would probably have to come after that as well, is my thinking, Brian. But I don't know if you have more information on that as well.
Yep, I think you nailed it. That ability to, directly deposit and withdraw crypto into Fidelity Digital Assets is very much, we hear the need and actively on our roadmap.
Love it. Thank you both. Let's see. So Adam is asking, this is all new terminology, cold, warm wallets, keys, etc. It's so complex. What are some suggestions on where I can learn more? So of course, we've gone ahead and mentioned fidelity.com/learn crypto. In my opinion, it's one of the best. But what other suggestions do we have?
I would dive a little bit deeper into that suggestion. I mean, of course, I think one of the things that, and Brian mentioned this about what you want to be looking for when you're looking for a trusted party to use as an exchange, and certainly someone to help you custody your digital assets. Look at the amount of education they have out there, right? What are the educational offerings? Because, and I can say, speaking really for Fidelity Crypto as offered by Fidelity Digital Assets, one of the very first things we collectively did here was decide we need to help customers and potential customers feel as confident as they possibly can when it comes to that question's core point. All this new jargon, all this new terminology, like long before you can start to feel comfortable making an investment with your own money, like you definitely should understand what you're investing in. And I think crypto is really ripe for that FOMO, fear of missing out, forced investing. And we definitely don't want that to happen. We want people to feel confident in what they're doing before they start doing it, which is a very long way to double down on, Sydney, your very appreciated promo for fidelity.com/learn crypto. When you go there, what you will see is a really, really robust offering of educational resources that hopefully will not just meet you where you are in terms of what you want to learn, but will meet you kind of how you want to learn. So there's tons and tons of other live stream episodes like this one. You can watch all our historic ones on that site and register for future ones. But then you'll also find long form articles if you're more interested in reading. There's infographics, there's animated videos, there's frequently asked questions like the one about fees I was just talking about. There's lots of ways to get your questions answered. Of course, you can do an internet search and find a lot of other information there. But what I think I'm particularly proud about with the Fidelity Crypto offering through Fidelity Digital Assets is you're going to find a lot of pure education there. We talked a lot about the product today, Fidelity Crypto, because we get a lot of questions about safety and security. But generally, everything you find on fidelity.com/learn crypto is really going to be product agnostic, right? It's just going to help you understand the words, help you understand the lingo, help you understand the jargon as a really strong base for doing your investing afterwards, hopefully.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just add to that is on this specific question of the terminology of hot and cold and custodial or self-custody. We put these videos online after, so just go back once it's posted and pause on that chart we had up of the 2x2 matrix. And so to really dive into the specific question, just remember that there's two factors and each one can have one of the other. So it's a total of 4 different combinations, right? So is it you self-custody holding the keys, or is it someone else? And then after that, is it connected to the internet or it's not? And you can have each permutation of that. So just pause there and look at kind of the pros and cons. And the thing I want to emphasize is there's not one right answer. There are no solutions, there's only trade-offs. And so each option has different trade-offs, and you have to think about your own risk model and tolerance and how you want to hold these amounts and everything like that. And like Jim said, product agnostic here, you have to figure out what works best for you, but the key is to understand it. So really understand that chart and understand what you're giving up or the trade-offs you're making with each of those options there.
Cool. Anything else, Sydney?
Just maybe a quick summarization. I think we just dunked it, but there's some questions about replays and transcripts. Can we maybe just outline real quick one more time the best places to go ahead and watch today's episode again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sort of piggybacking on what Chris was just saying there. We often get questions about how to watch a live stream again. I mean, maybe you joined this one a couple of minutes late, or it's worth a second rewatch. So there's a couple of ways to get that done. The episode you're watching right now will be made available as a replay on, guess the website, fidelity.com/learncrypto. There will also be a transcript available for download there too, so you can have both if you would like them. If you registered for today's show, we'll take care of all that behind the scenes. We will send you an email as soon as the replay is ready, and the email will have a link and tell you where to go for that replay. Just give us a couple of days, maybe a week or so, to get it up. The other thing to note too is that we have our YouTube page. Fidelity's YouTube page also has all of the historic replays of the Covering Crypto live stream, as well as a lot of other crypto-related educational content as well too. So if you head over to Fidelity's YouTube page, you can get some information there. But I think that should wrap it up for the day. Just one last check, Sydney. We all good? Any other last minute questions come in?
We hit all the big themes today. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to thank all three of you for making time to be with us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, everyone.
Just a reminder for folks watching, thank you for your time, of course. There is a brief survey just under the video player where the questions were just coming in and being discussed. The survey is only available if you're watching us live on Fidelity's website right now. But if that fits you, it takes just less than 2 minutes to fill the survey out, and it helps us a ton in terms of planning for future episodes. So we really appreciate you doing that. Remember, I get to say it one more time. You can visit fidelity.com/learncrypto for videos, infographics, articles, and more. And that's where you can sign up for our next live stream coming up in just a couple of weeks, actually, June 11th. We will ask a question and answer a question that we hear a ton. Is crypto worth it? The show is going to let us take on all of your most recent questions about risk, about volatility, about scams, as well as about value. Why does crypto have value? What's behind it? What are the use cases? What are the opportunities? Talk about the tech. Is crypto worth it? Will be the subject of our live stream on June 11th. So we'd love to have you join us for that. You can submit your questions for us when you register, or do what you did today and ask them live. And we hope to see you there.